everyone. We're just waiting for everybody to join us.
Oh, we're live.
We are.
Hope everybody's having off to a lovely June. Lovely start with June.
Yes, and we even have Lulu here who's making a rare appearance.
Everybody loves the Lulu.
She decided she wanted to be on for the libraries, at least for a little bit.
Until she gets tired of us talking.
At which point she'll go away.
As she does.
Because she's the Lulu.
Hi Jade, I hope you're having a good evening. I'm going to give our folks at the Vibe Radio Network just a few more seconds to get in here and
join us.
Had a lot of people interested in tonight, so hopefully we'll have a good crowd here.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Alright, so now we got, well, mostly everybody here with us.
Yay!
Hopefully we'll have a few more people coming on in as in the next minute or so here. But yeah, glad you could all join us tonight for our first show in June, which feels really weird to say. We're almost halfway through the year already.
And June's going to be kind of different because we're going to have our normal scheduled show in 2 weeks' time, but then we're going to immediately follow the next week with the next show. Because Chris and I are going to be off-grid for a little bit after that.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's slightly different schedule this month, but we will get 3 shows this month.
Yep, so we have this show, then in 2 weeks we have Haunted the Spirits of Victoria, British Columbia.
Yes, which is just south of Vancouver, which is where we're going part of the time.
Part of the time. And then just 1 week after that, we are going to be doing Haunted Alaska. So, yep.
And that's where we're going to be the rest of the time.
Yep. And then it'll be 3 weeks until our next show.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're looking forward to doing a few shows with y'all this month, and we are crazy busy with the tours right now.
Yep. We just made a executive decision today.
Yep. So we're at a minimum. We're going every day, Wednesday through Sunday, through Labor Day. But on select Mondays and Tuesdays, we are also going to be offering tours as well, including starting next week. So next week we're going to have 3 weeks of tours on Monday and Tuesday as well. So we'll be going 7 days a week for at least for a few weeks, and then we'll see where we're at as we get into July. So yeah, gonna be busy. Got a lot going on.
And as Roberta pointed out, I am wearing an Arm the Animal shirt. This is a great group. They actually donate to shelters. Part of the cost of the shirt goes directly to shelters all over the U.S. So if you're interested in checking them out, they got some really cool shirts. We like to support them. Half my drawer is Arm the Animals.
I'm wearing turtle tea tonight.
Yes,
which is just fun. They don't necessarily do the charity stuff, but they're fun shirts.
They are.
I
wear a lot of those too. My coffee shop job, and they're just fun.
But anyways, so yeah, we're doing very well, and glad to be here tonight. We got on top of the tours, we got all kinds of other fun stuff going on. Of course, next month we have towards the end of the month we have our not ours. There's going to be the Scares That Care convention, which is the last full weekend of July out in Williamsburg, which we are very happy to be able to sponsor that again. So,
and if you're a runner, we actually specifically sponsor the 5K, which is on Saturday. That is open for people to sign up now, so you can run in person or you can run virtually as a spirit warrior walker. So definitely check that out. Chris will be walking on the day. I'll be out there dancing with Marsha, and we'll be having a good time.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get in a respectable jog, but
we're still recovering.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get out and go for a run this week and put these the stitches or whatever you want to call them to the test.
Yeah.
There's not really stitches.
The glue.
The glue's gone. The glue's gone. So it's been just over 4 weeks since I had that gallbladder out, and I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
So we got that, and also we do highly recommend that if you want to come and join us for our Haunts of Key West trip, which is going to be that first weekend in December, we recommend signing up by the end of July, because after that is when the block of hotel rooms is going to get released. So, but yeah, we're looking forward to that. That's going to be a spooky good time as well, and you can go learn about that on hauntsofkeywest.com.
Yep, again, 2 investigations, 1 dinner paid for. The current Hotel is haunted, and it does have breakfast every morning, so a good portion of your meals are already covered. And it'll be a lot of fun.
Yep. So, but anyways, so yeah, I think we got most everybody here that's going to join us for a little while, and got to go ahead. We'll get to what is
He has my drink.
Beth needs more to drink.
Cheers.
Still. But anyways, the reason that you all actually tuned in tonight is that we're going to be talking about some haunted libraries from all over the world. So we got some fun stories to tell. This was definitely a fun one to research.
Oh yes, it was.
Yep.
Because I've been to a couple of these.
Yep. So I'll do the intro, and then you can do the first story.
He wants to talk about Ghostbusters.
I wrote the intro. Yeah. So anyways. So, haunted libraries are a staple in ghostly lore, especially since the opening sequence of the original Ghostbusters movie 38 years ago. 38 years ago. When an apparition in the basement stacks of the New York City Public Library gave audiences a scare and a laugh at the expense of Peter, Ray, and Egon. While that scene is etched into our minds as an entertaining dramatization, it does also serve as a reminder that ghosts in libraries do in fact go hand in hand. Library ghost lore is quite diverse, and ghosts seem to haunt libraries for different reasons. Some ghosts appear to be place-bound and tied to buildings or land that the library now inhabits. Others seem to simply enjoy being around the books or the quiet comfortable confines of the library walls, and some seem to be bound to the aging volumes themselves, as it's easy to take for granted how precious books were in the days before our more modern means of mass production. As for how spirits make themselves known amongst the stacks, not all are quite as dramatic and messy as the encounter that the Ghostbusters endured. While there have certainly been sightings of specters in libraries near and far, oftentimes they are more subtle: a sudden draft of cold air, a mysterious disembodied whisper, books and card catalogs being shifted about by unseen hands. There are certainly many more things to be startled by within libraries aside from the horror novels that can be found there.
Having worked at an old library, I can tell you that's so.
So, you get to go ahead. You get to start off.
Because I've been to this one!
Yes.
I like this one. This one's a really cool one. This is in Dublin, Ireland, so we're going to go to Marsh's library. While we start in the old country, the city of Dublin, most every tourist, of course, knows of the Long Library at Trinity College, where the Book of Kells is located. Been there too. But a short distance away, just past the medieval graveyard of St. Patrick's Cathedral, stands a Gothic stone archway and hinged door marking the path of the stairs to Marsh's library. While it's the size of a closet in comparison to Long Library, Marsh's library has the distinction of being Ireland's first public library dating back to 1707. As you open the door to its gallery, you'll find yourself transported back hundreds of years as you take in the thick and dramatic oak shelves lining the ancient walls. Honestly, I think this is what served as the inspiration for the, what was it in Harry Potter? The off-limits section.
I know what you're talking about.
I forget what they called it.
I can look it up.
Marsh's Library is one of those very few 18th century buildings left in Dublin that is actually still being used for its original purpose. Restricted section.
Restricted section, okay.
It's made up of two long galleries joined by a small reading room. The books are shelved in bays on either side of the gallery. The interior of the library has an elegant dark oak bookcases filled with old books. Bookcases are complete with rolling ladders, leaving one to fight the temptation to reenact Belle's scene from Beauty and the Beast. And I can tell you the temptation is real. Real. Very real. Seriously, resist the temptation. Otherwise, you'll be escorted from the property, by the way. Didn't have that happen to me, by the way. I resisted. Barely. And the bibliophiles out there, of course, you will definitely not want to live. You'll want to move right in. There is something to be said about this place that makes one want to settle in for the long term. Hot pot ready with tea with whiskey, because tea with whiskey, you're in old books. Perhaps this is what actually kept Bram Stoker here. Reading books of travel and death, records of his readings are kept in the ledger where you can see his hand scrawls along with those of Jonathan Swift and James Joyce. With 25,000 rare and extraordinary books residing in its original oak shelves, there's plenty to keep an avid reader busy. Many libraries from this age were commonly chained to actually meaning that they were secured to the shelves to discourage thieves from making off with the valuable books, thus the restricted section reference. Marsh's library takes slightly different approach as they actually lock their readers into the cages to stop them from stealing the books. That said, they do lose about 10% of the collection before they install these cages. 3 of these cages reside at the back of the library, adding to the eerie feeling. Maybe it's these kind of places that can inspire the creativity in the darkest corner of our imagination. After all, it was here that Bram Stoker first drafted Dracula. But Marsh's library offers more than just books, reading cages, and a morbid inspiration within its halls. A spectral fiend has been seen in the library gallery during the dark and quiet hours that is said to be at the Archbishop Narcissus March.
The guy's name was Narcissus.
Yeah.
Modern day, there'd be red flags all over the place.
And he's an archbishop.
Just saying.
Okay, we're going to leave it at that.
Moving on.
He was born and raised in England. Marsh actually entered the clergy at the early 1660s, and then in 1679, Marsh was sent to Trinity College, Dublin, to be the provost. And from 1680 to early 1700s, he continued to rise in the ranks within the church. How is this related to the haunting of the library that bears his name? Well, the library website says that Marsh has had an idea for his library while he was the provost of Trinity College.
Don't mind the cats.
Where's Umi, apparently? He spent most of his waking hours among the books and the manuscripts he loved, while being the guardian to his niece. Grace was 19 years old, and she fell in love with the sea captain. Marsh did not approve, and he made his opposition to the relationship known. Grace and her love ran away and eloped. She left a note for her uncle explaining her disappearance and asking for forgiveness. Not wanting the archbishop to find it in time to stop her, she placed it in one of the thousands of books in the library. But the Archbishop Marsh never found the note in life, and he returns to the library frequently on an endless search for it. Walking from the first gallery through to the second, you can feel the temperature drop. While it's hard to justify his desire to stand between his niece and her love, it's easy to imagine the anxiety, regret, and maybe even guilt that the Archbishop must have felt after his niece's sudden departure. And it seems that those emotions may have been enough to anchor his spirit to the site for all these years since.
I did not make it there when we visited Dublin.
No, well, we were only in Dublin for a very short time, and we got
one night on each end.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of snow. There was a lot of snow.
So
next time we're in Dublin, whenever that is. It's been a few years.
Yeah, no, we need to go back.
Been actually a lot of years since we went to Dublin, because the last time we went to Ireland, we stuck to the West Coast.
Yeah.
So
We need to go back.
I was about to say road trip, but no, that's not quite right.
Okay. Boat or plane over there, then road trip. And maybe a 2-week trip this time versus a week.
Yeah. So, we are going to go and stay over on the east side of the Atlantic, where we're going to move over to Norfolk, England. And it's here that Felbrigg Hall stands amidst the vast parklands in Norfolk, and it is one of the finest houses in East Anglia. Originally the home of the Felbrigg family, the land and house were acquired in the 15th century by the Wyndhams. Its Jacobean facade hides elegant Georgian interiors that speak of the Wyndhams' tastes and fancies over the centuries. Although the last Wyndham died over 200 years ago and the home has been in the hands of the National Trust since the 1960s, not all of its past residents seem eager to quit their former home. One such tale comes from an elderly woman, once a parlor maid in the hall, recounting how she and other maids would find that their candles were mysteriously extinguished when they passed by a particular door. A female voice would beckon them to enter the chamber, but the room was always found to be uninhabited. By far the most famous spirit inhabiting the hall is that of William Wyndham III, known as the Fighting Wyndham for his sporting prowess. William Wyndham was a noted orator and a prominent statesman for much of his life. His career spanned the American War of Independence, the French Revolution, and the colonial wars of the early 19th century. But the overriding passion in his life and the cause of his tragic death was his love of books. The wonderful Gothic library at Felbrigg was filled with books that both William II and William III each brought back from their grand tours. William III was to meet his fate one summer evening in 1809. As he returned to his home in Pall Mall, he noticed a fire had taken hold in a house on Conduit Street, very close to the residence of his friend Robert North. Wyndham knew that his friend had a very valuable library, and he immediately set about the rescue operation. He and 3 others succeeded in rescuing most of the valuable manuscripts. The rescue was not without its price, though, as William fell and bruised his hip. The bruise became a tumor, and the tumor needed to be operated on. Operations in the early 19th century were brutal affairs, and William died as a result. His final words addressed to his physician were, "I thank you. This is the last trouble I shall give you. You fight the battle well, but it will not do." His body was buried in the family vaults at Felbrigg Church, a stone's throw from the hall, and the specter of William III can occasionally be encountered in the dark and shadowy Gothic library. He has often been found standing by a table where his favorite volumes were laid out, or ensconced in an easy chair by a roaring fire, engrossed in a favorite book. It does seem like a pleasant way to spend eternity.
It's actually said that the staff will occasionally lay out his favorite book so he can be there by the fire.
Well, yeah. I could stand with haunting a Gothic library.
Yeah.
Yeah. Works for me.
Yeah.
You want to take it from here, or you want to keep going? Back to you.
Because I've been in this one too. So we're jumping down to merry old London at this point in time. Fix this. Keyboard go away. There we go. Now I can read easily. Alright, so in the heart of London's Bloomsbury district, next to the famous British Museum, stands the Senate House. It's an Art Deco building dating back to the 1930s. It was originally built for the University of London. Today, the structure serves as multiple purposes for the university, but most prominently of which includes housing the Senate House Library. The Senate House Library was formerly known as the University of London Library. The University of London was, of course, founded in 1836, and 2 years later, in 1838, it received its first donation of 200 books. The first known mention to the University of London Library appears in 1846. Only in 2004 was it renamed the Senate House Library. The library is open to the public as well as students of academics and of the University of London. Membership is required. When I studied abroad, it was through the University of London, which is how I got to go there.
You were special.
I was special. In 1937, after a century of being housed in the temporary premises, the University of London and its library permanently moved to the Senate House. During the Second World War, the Ministry of Information used the Senate House as its headquarters. The building would later become a model for the Ministry of Truth in George Orwell's 1984. Today, Senate House is an architectural landmark in the heart of Bloomsbury, and it is open to the public for events and conferences. It's also a popular venue for film, television productions, and currently the Senate House Library dominates the structure, occupying the 4th floor through the 19th floor. It's here that very special collections reside, the Harry Price Collection. It's a unique collection and is comprised nearly of 13,000 books, pamphlets, and periodic titles on all aspects of magic and the paranormal.
Quite the collection to have in an academic library.
Research!
You'd get lost in there. I'd never see you again.
No, you wouldn't. Talk about a rabbit hole. Oh yeah, who's in with me? From conjuring to witchcraft and the occult to prophecies and spiritual phenomenon, such as ghosts and mediums. Can anybody say Ministry of Magic?
Basically, yeah. I would.
Totally ministry of magic, right here.
I'm wondering if we're talking inspiration here.
Probably.
This is a heck of a building. The place is huge.
These were collected by and named after the leading psychic researcher and author Harry Price, who investigated cases of alleged hauntings during his lifetime and working to verify spiritualist mediums. For decades, from the early 1920s through the end of his life in 1948, Price was a leading authority on psycho...
Little tongue-tied? Do I need to take over? Where are you?
Where am I? Right there.
Price was a leading authority in psychical research and worked.
See, it's not easy.
No, it's not. And worked aggressively to expose fraudulent spiritualist mediums. That said, he wasn't an opponent of spiritualism at all, as he also signed off on mediums that he concluded were legitimate. His life brought him face to face with a substantial amount of paranormal energy. Ever since Price's books took residence on the 8th floor of Senate House, the library's staff have reported strange activity, such as hearing the sound of loud laughter or whispering when no one else is around, and seeing floating books or even full-blown apparitions, including a mysterious cloaked figure and a glowing blue lady. All things considered, for anyone who knows of Harry Price and the life that he lived, it's fair to say that some of the spirits that he encountered may have felt inclined to linger on with the documents that were collected with great care and diligence regarding their very existence. So, yeah. Mr. Price was quite the character.
I wonder if there's any relationship to Vincent.
Didn't get that. But, as I was reading up on the guy, I came to the conclusion we could have done almost like an entire episode just on this guy, on Harry Price and his life and his various, exploits and whatnot. He was quite the individual.
Can I go do research and then do one in England?
Yes. The guy he certainly managed to he knew how to strike a pose. Yes. So yeah. Little smidge intimidating, but yeah, quite the character.
So maybe we extend our trip in 2023?
One thing at a time.
Okay.
We have a show to get through here.
Okay. Percolating thoughts.
Yes.
Now,
we still have yet to actually come back stateside, and we do have some stateside stories.
But we're going out of Europe this time.
Yeah, now we're going to a corner of the globe that we actually have rarely visited. Not too many of our ghost stories come from this area, and we are going to be going to Kolkata, India, of all places. Now, Kolkata is known as the City of Joy for its culture and love of celebrations. However, this does not spare it from the haunting of spirits who refuse to leave some of the most iconic buildings in the city. This includes the building that was the one-time residence of the Lieutenant General of Bengal, known as the Belvedere House. The first Nawab of Bengal, Mir Jafar, decided to build Belvedere House in Kolkata in 1760. Later it was given to Warren Hastings, the first Governor General of the East India Company. In 1836, the first Calcutta Public Library started here, the first large-scale library in India. And it still holds the status of being the largest library in all the country. Today, it stands as the National Library, a treasure trove for all book lovers. People come here and engage themselves in reading several types of literary works, ranging from autobiographies to ancient history books to scientific books to, yes, of course, haunted stories. Now, guards at the National Library are often armed with a copy of the Hanuman Chalisa. I think I got that right. It's a Hindu devotional hymn. So, my apologies if I did butcher that. I think I may have gotten it though. So, the Hanuman Chalisa. Now, they carry this with them to shoo away any spirits lurking around, but many have reported spotting a faint apparition of a man leaving them petrified. In 2010, a newspaper report added to the spookiness of the building when conservation engineers discovered a mysterious room on the ground floor of the 250-year-old building that went unnoticed for decades. Rumors immediately took off. Was it a long-lost torture chamber? Did it contain... Hi, Lulu. Okay.
Well, it's just reenacting a ghost.
That was unusual. Anyways, all right. So does this contain valuable treasure, or perhaps, if legend is to be believed, this room may hold the secret to the haunting and a political trial from over 2 centuries ago? Many believe that the spectral man that has been witnessed in the building late at night is Warren Hastings. His faint apparition spotted at various places throughout. Despite the fear that his appearance imparts on the guards who glimpse him, his purpose in remaining doesn't seem to be to scare people away or to attack them. Rather, it's believed that Hastings' ghost roams here to find a black bureau that he couldn't retrieve when he was alive. He believed that this bureau contained papers that could prove his innocence against charges that he faced in the House of Commons, including embezzlement, extortion, coercion, and even a judicial killing during his 10 years of service as the Governor General. Even though all charges against him were dropped later, after a trial that dragged on intermittently for 7 years, he still comes back in the hope of locating those papers, perhaps for personal vindication, if nothing else. Given that the Bureau and the papers remain elusive, could it be that they are contained within the hidden chamber that has escaped notice for so many years? Or perhaps it's all a fanciful tale to better link the past to the modern day in the city that loves a little mystery amid its joyful atmosphere. Short of breaking down a wall to enter the long-sealed chamber, it seems that we will need to continue wondering a little longer. Interestingly, little to nothing has been published about the hidden chamber since 2012. Beyond the possible spirit of Warren Hastings, there are believed to be other ghosts lingering about the library. People have reported having witnessed the spirit of Lady Metcalf in the library corridors. Lady Metcalf was the governor's wife, and she had a fierce reputation for keeping things in their place. This tendency seems to have carried down from the building's time as a residence to its current status as a library. There seems to be no faster way to get the attention of Lady Metcalf than to put a book back where it doesn't belong. Many an errant filer have felt a phantom breath on the back of their neck, sometimes accompanied by the sound of disembodied footsteps. The presence of spirits is not only experienced by the readers, but also by the librarians who have needed to contend with chairs being drawn away from their tables, the sounds of ruffling pages and books falling from shelves when no one is around. Additional tales abound, including that of an English student who entered the library to work on a report, but never emerged. His ghostly figure has been sighted within the library walls. Similarly, a Bengali student who died before completing his thesis has also been seen returning to the library trying to conclude his incomplete work. One common thread that so many of these stories share keeps coming back to the mysterious, hidden, and sealed chamber. Is there treasure, hidden evidence, the body of a missing English student, a spiritual vortex drawing energy from years past into the modern day? Or is it perhaps just an architectural quirk that has fueled the imagination of so many ghost hunters and bibliophiles? If you ever find yourself in Kolkata, the city of joy, maybe you should stop by to check it out for yourself.
So yes, that was Vincent that went running through there for a second. We're apparently playing Chase the Lulu tonight. Any comments?
Lulu needed her 5 seconds of fame, yes.
And Roberta said you got pronunciation correct.
Thank you. And reenactments brought to you by Lulu. Yep. Oh.
Alright, so now we're coming back over to the U.S. because, of course, we can't do this show without having some from here. So we're going to drop down to the Hutchinson Public Library in Hutchinson, Kansas. Now, the city of Hutchinson is in the middle of Kansas. It's a community of about 40,000 people, and it punches well above its weight as a host of Kansas State Fair and the home of the Cosmosphere. It's a world-class museum dedicated to the history of space exploration. The community has more resources, including traditional offerings such as parks, sports fields, and, of course, libraries. The Hutchinson Public Library is a fairly typical modern library, row after row of books covering nearly every subject, computer stations with internet access, quiet meeting rooms, a children's space, and a delightful and knowledgeable staff that helps you navigate all of it. The friendly and unassuming atmosphere aside, could the Hutchinson Public Library be haunted? Yeah, it is. Or we wouldn't be talking about it. Stepping back over 130 years, Ida Miranda Day was born on April 20th of 1888 in Colony, Kansas. In 1960, Ida was hired at the Hutchinson Public Library with a salary of $75 per month and 2 weeks paid vacation.
Not too shabby for the day.
No, especially for a woman. She spent about 10 years working at the library before leaving in 1926 to attend the University of Kansas. Her work at the library entailed developing a complete catalog and classification system, initiating reference help, mobilizing books for World War I soldiers, starting the outreach to shut-ins, and introducing Sunday hours. In 1946, Ida returned to Hutchinson Public Library as Ida Day Hopsfeld. She oversaw the library, moved from the Carnegie Building to the present location at 901 North Main Street in 1951. Ida Day was considered a proper woman who had tea with employees promptly at 3 p.m. every afternoon. I'm good with this. At 9:53, in 1953, Ida resigned from the Hutchinson Public Library to fill a position as a reference librarian for the Tulare County in Visalia, California. She died a short time later in a car accident. She was on her way to her first day at the new job when this accident occurred. Over 20 years later, the October 31st, 1975 issue of the Hutchinson News included a story about library workers who reported seeing and hearing a ghost in the library. Supposedly, it was the ghost of Ida Day. Ida Day was described as totally dedicated to her job, a dedication that frequently made her difficult to work with, especially if fellow employees did not demonstrate the same dedication to the library that she did. On one occasion, library employees Angelina Welsh and Rose Hale were working in the basement. Hale went upstairs, and when she returned, she heard Welsh talking to someone. Welsh denied she had said a word, but Hale heard footsteps leaving. Hale said the next day she stopped below the stairs and saw a lady standing there. Hale did not know the woman's name, but when she later described the woman to another library employee, Hale was told she had just described Ida Day. Since that time, other employees have claimed to have heard footsteps in the basement, and it's become a shared joke that whenever anything was misplaced or missing, Ida Day took it. The feeling that Ida Day returned to watch over the library and sometimes rebelled when she thought it was not being run correctly was reinforced by the local paper. In the news story published when Ida Day resigned to take a job in California, the article stated she has plans to retain ownership of her home and will eventually return to Hutchinson. It seems as though Ida was true to her word. However, if you do find yourself alone in that library, there's a chance you might see Ida walking around or looking at books. If you do, you need not worry. She's not harmful. She generally keeps to her duties, such as they are. And if Ida ever does feel the need to get your attention, a light touch is the extent of the interaction that you should expect to endure.
She sounds like a delightful lady.
Yeah, she's not going to go all grossly and startle you out of the library.
No, she probably has the appearance of the yeah, but yeah, it sounds like that's what Ida looks like. I wonder if she was the inspiration. I should have done some more research on that.
I don't know.
But I'll go ahead. I'll go give Dan Aykroyd a call, see what his thoughts are.
Ghostbusters was based on his personal paranormal experiences.
Yes.
So I'm really curious if it happened in the New York Library or if it was some other library.
Yeah. You know, I got the guy on speed dial, so no, I don't.
Dan, if you want to get together with us, we'll be happy to buy you dinner and we'll some
chat.
talking.
We'll chat. We'll have our people call your people. You're my people. Go ahead, give them a call.
Let me get on that.
Moving along. All right. So now we are going to be staying stateside now, and our next stop is Evansville, Indiana, where we find an institution founded by Willard Carpenter. Carpenter helped to build Evansville through his business and political acumen in the mid-1800s, through a series of real estate and other various business dealings that helped him accumulate a considerable fortune. As Carpenter neared the end of his life, he wanted to leave a lasting legacy. His aspirations were to found a Willard College, but the resources dedicated to the project were not enough to fund a sustainable institution of higher learning. Excuse me. The considerable fortune that Carpenter had amassed in his earlier years in Evansville had been significantly depleted through some unfortunate business dealings. Although Carpenter had worked to rebuild his wealth, he did not have enough years remaining to replace the money that had been lost when some of the business deals went bad and his real estate holdings had been significantly devalued. And so, faced with that reality, and with many who agreed that the college would struggle at best, Carpenter was encouraged by his peers to direct his intentions to the founding of another institution, perhaps a library. Carpenter seemed to like the idea, seeing a connection between the two. Both were dedicated to learning and would benefit the community. And so, his long-held dream of creating a Willard College was redirected into the creation of Willard Library. At 131 years old, Willard Library is the oldest public library building in the state of Indiana, and until opening a new addition in 2015, had occupied the same 15,000 square foot building and retained much of its original Victorian trappings: original woodwork, tilework, high ceilings, and general opulence. Greg Hager, the director of the Willard Library, notes that Willard Library just looks like the kind of place built for housing a ghost. The first reported encounter with the ghost, who would come to be known as the Gray Lady, occurred in early February 1937. It was the practice of the library's custodian to come into the library at about 3 a.m. during the winter to stoke the coal-fired furnace and begin to get the building heated before it was time to open. He entered the basement and approached the furnace carrying his flashlight when he encountered a woman in a dress with a type of gauzy material over her face standing in front of the furnace. When he realized that the beam of his flashlight passed through her and illuminated the furnace behind her, he fled the basement. This same custodian would go on to have frequent encounters with this unsettling apparition. In the words of the day after the first sighting, he took to drink. Finally, he quit his job at Willard Library, stating as his reason for leaving always seeing the ghost and having nobody to believe him. He's the only staff member to ever leave the employ of the library because of the ghost. Over 1,000 sightings have been recorded since 1937, mostly visual in nature. However, according to Mayor McKay in the Willard Library Ghost Chatters, they have also uncovered the existence of the spirit of a male child in the basement's children's reading room. The activity in this area ranges from levitating books, to orbs of light, to being touched and having one's hair stroked. One of the most recent Gray Lady sightings involved 2 employees in the children's department who, via a security camera in 2014, witnessed a woman in a Victorian dress standing at the basement door with her back to the camera as if she was looking out the window. The woman turned to face the camera and then disappeared slowly, in pieces, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, from the head down until she was gone. Both employees independently corroborated the story and stated that seeing her made them feel uneasy and unsettled. Other employees who have seen the famous ghost state that she is accompanied by the strong smell of very cheap-smelling perfume, and they feel immensely cold. Sightings typically last in the range of about 10 seconds. Now, in 1995, Willard Library sponsored the first Gray Lady Ghost Tour, thinking it would be a fun, low-key library program. That evening, Greg stood in his office looking out the window at the 800 people lined up outside.
Low-key.
Yeah. The 1-hour program turned into a 5-hour event and spurred the library's current offering of ghost tours that span weeks and attract thousands of people. The program remains the library's most popular program event for adults. Greg knows, however, that while we are a haunted place, we are first and foremost a public library that serves the Evansville, Indiana area. The library doesn't conduct staff-led ghost tours year-round and limits overnight paranormal investigations to just 1 night per year. Though the Grey Lady is a sought-after apparition, the library staff is first and foremost concerned with serving the library patrons, which we, and the Grey Lady, can agree is a very important purpose.
Yeah.
I love seeing places engage in the haunted history stuff.
Yeah.
It's
They don't ignore it.
They don't ignore it. They open up their doors, and even if they don't necessarily believe in it, which is fine, they do acknowledge the fact that it is another way to gain some interest from people who may have overlooked an institution before, and it's still a very good way to be able to share the haunted history of an area.
Yeah.
So you can still very easily, weave in, which is what we do on our tours. We weave in the historic facts to go with the ghost stories. So even if you're not a believer in the paranormal, we like to think on our tours, we have something for everybody, and that's basically how the library handles it as well. So
Yeah.
kudos to the library. We get 2 thumbs up.
And they also acknowledge the fact that their main purpose is being a library.
Yeah.
That's their focus. This is something they just do a little extra around spooky time.
It's kind of like the partnership we have going with the John Marshall House.
Yeah.
John Marshall House, dedicated to the history of John Marshall and those associated with him. But they started doing the spooky stuff on the side, and we're very happy to be partnered with them.
Yes.
Which, speaking of which, isn't our first, our next tour with them? Is it
Coming up.
is it a week from Friday?
17th.
17th?
No.
Or
Yeah, the 17th is Friday.
yeah, it's right around the corner.
So.
Yeah. So, or no, the 24th, 2 weeks from Friday. Either way, it'll be soon.
It's coming up.
It is coming up.
All right, so we're going to stay in Arkansas. We're going to go to the Saline County Library.
No, we were in Illinois.
During the other one was Kansas.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Apparently I put a lot of rum in my drink.
Arkansas is not Illinois.
Well, no, but
Or Indiana.
I was thinking Kansas.
Okay. It was Indiana too.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to Arkansas.
I might have had a little too much to drink too.
Benton, Arkansas, the Saline County Library had its beginnings in March of 1931. The Benton Junior Fortnightly Club, a women's civic club, took on the project of establishing a library for the city of Benton and the citizens of Saline County. The library was established on the second floor of the Walton Building on Market Street in downtown. Between 1931 and today, the library has moved several times, including a 36-year stretch when the library was residing in the Old Palace Theater at 224
West South Street.
Wow.
Yeah, they had fun with that. You had fun with that too.
During this time, the old theater building, between 1967 and 2003, the library was able to expand and mature until a structure that was purposely built as the library could be put into service and dedicated. The library has come a long way since the original 2-room layout in 1931. It was during the library's residency in the old theater that the Saline County Library became synonymous with paranormal phenomenon. They converted the theater building frequently featured activity that made librarians suspect a ghost was afoot. Phantom footsteps, paperback carousels rotating by themselves, books falling from the shelves, and a self-operating photocopier. Oh yeah, and don't forget the slamming book return door. Once, late at night, the library director heard the distinctive sound of a manual typewriter, but the library had long ago discarded theirs.
Back up to this self-operating photocopier. As if photocopiers aren't infernal machines enough to begin with, this one seems to be possessed. I might have opinions about photocopiers. Office Space was right. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's talking to a teacher where the thing would jam when you needed it 5 minutes ago. And I seem to be the only one in the building who could unjam the thing.
Made you popular. Moving on.
All right. The activity coordinator at the library recounted numerous encounters that she experienced during her time at the old library branch. Some of the unnerving activity includes the sighting of a woman with big, black, bushy hair standing in the children's section when the library was first opening in the morning, and seeing the lower half of someone in a black skirt walking through the large print fiction area. There's no way that anyone else could be in those areas. at that time. She would also hear people stomping up and down the stairs early in the morning and later at night. There were sounds of chairs moving across the floor in the storytime room, as well as of book pages rustling when no one was around. And even in a more light-hearted event, she recalled hearing the sound of what she thought was her co-worker's voice asking a question. She answered the voice and then followed up with a question of her own. At that point, the bewildered colleague asked who she was talking to. The colleague had not asked any questions. There wasn't anyone there but the two of them. Oddly enough, the disembodied voice was asking about donuts.
Who doesn't like donuts?
And we just had National Donut Day.
Which you kind of missed.
Yeah, we didn't get donuts that day.
No, we did not. For shame.
So, what was it like? What was it that was haunting the theater turned library? Theories abound, but some believe that the daily activity and the structure, including the creativity, exchanging of ideas, and the emotions, both good and bad, left some residual energy that fed into the spiritual interaction experienced there over the years. If you want to visit the building, you still can. Since the library moved out, it has undergone significant renovations once again. And while the facade still bears the Palace Theater name, the establishment is now a Baja Grill. And you can get some Mexican food and margaritas and keep your eye out for any lingering spirits other than what you're drinking.
Yeah. So, at least they're continuing to use the historic building. And the library itself did not close. They just moved to an upgraded facility. Yeah. So, we can accept that.
Yeah.
That's all good. It's all good. So, moving along to, we're going to go to New Jersey. Specifically, we're going to Bernardsville, New Jersey. And it's here that the local library is believed to be the residence of a grieving ghost. The spirit within Bernardsville Library seems to be unwilling to let go of her long-lost love, and though it has yet to be verified, it is believed that the ghosts are of Phyllis Parker and Dr. Byram are responsible for the mysterious occurrences happening between the stacks. In 1777, Dr. Byram, a traveling doctor, stopped at the Vealtown Tavern in Bernardsville to rest after a long journey, and quickly became acquainted with the tavern owner's daughter, Phyllis Parker. The doctor remained at the tavern for an extended amount of time. Of course, Phyllis had absolutely nothing to do with this. And during his stay, he courted the daughter. Okay, yes, Phyllis had everything to do with this. And the two fell madly in love with one another. One night, a group of soldiers in General George Washington's army entered the tavern, charting out their next venture, when Dr. Byram quickly hurried to his room, then later left the tavern altogether. The next day, the soldiers, realizing Dr. Byram was actually a spy for the British Army, hunted and quickly captured him, bringing him before their commanding officer. Byram was exposed for who he really was, Mr. Aaron Wilde, a spy for the British Army. Within one day, he was tried, convicted, and hanged. Before meeting his end, Dr. Byram requested permission to write a note to Phyllis and asked that he would receive a proper burial. Phyllis was told that a spy had been captured. Phyllis was told that a spy had been captured and hung, and soldiers would return his coffin to the inn that night for burial the next day. The body was placed in the dining room while the household was asleep. In the darkness, everyone was awakened by the sounds of boards being ripped from the coffin and a wild shriek. Rushing downstairs, residents found Phyllis with a hatchet and a candle staring at her lover's face. The story continues that she lost all reason that night. She never fully recovered from the heartbreak caused by his death, dying herself shortly thereafter. In the years that followed, Phyllis's spirit became a fixture at the tavern, remaining even after the tavern closed. In 1903, the Bernardsville Library moved in, giving little concern to the reports of a resident ghost. For that matter, Phyllis gave little concern to the library, continuing to inhabit the building and making herself known to library staff and patrons alike. She was most well known for the screams and sobbing that would be heard throughout the building, still mourning her lost love. Her presence became so common that Phyllis was issued a library card, and the numerous ghostly events would be hosted over the years, including a Ghost Watch Ball in January 1977 to mark the 200th anniversary of the story. While no sightings were reported, the celebration was well enjoyed.
I want want to go to a Ghost Watch ball.
I know, that actually sounds really amazing.
That sounds like so much fun.
We need to organize one.
Steve.
We need to find somebody to get them on board.
Steve.
My people will call somebody.
You're on the board.
Yeah, so I am. So I am. No, okay. Carrying on. In 1991, Eileen Lutz Johnson, a Bernardsville resident and local history room volunteer, authored a 50-page book, Phyllis, the Library Ghost? Detailing the story of Phyllis. While the library moved out in the 1990s to a more modern facility, the old library and prior tavern still stands on Morrisville Road and has since hosted numerous other businesses over the years. We can only assume that Phyllis still lingers on in her historic haunt, pining after the love she lost almost 2.5 centuries ago.
So Alex had a question. Have we ever had a paranormal investigation at a library? We personally have not. Our library here in town, the Main Street Library, is haunted, but they're about to go into renovation.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Not too keen on that, but that's a story for another day. We haven't investigated anything local, but the Hanover Library, they're in Hanover Courthouse, will sometimes open up their doors as part of the paranormal investigations that are done at Hanover Tavern.
Yeah, so we have investigated there.
Yeah, usually if you do attend a paranormal investigation at Hanover Tavern with Transcend Paranormal, you will get to investigate not only the tavern, but also, at a minimum, the courthouse and the old jail, the Old Stone Jail.
But every now and then, like for example last January when we had the Paracon, the VIP night, right, is when...
Yes, we got into the library on the VIP night, I think it was.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we get in there, it seems like about half the time we managed to get into the library. And that time, that was...
He had his first experience.
I had a legit paranormal experience in the library. It was the only remotely close thing to an experience I've ever encountered there. We were the first group in that evening. As soon as we got in there, everybody got in, we're in the library kind of foyer area, and we're standing there, and as we're talking and kind of going over some of the ground rules and stuff like that, we hear footsteps upstairs. And now the upstairs is all office space. It's not library proper or anything like that. So that's the place where people, workers would be and stuff like that. That's where their little cubicles and whatnot were. Now, nobody had been there ahead of us. And so we're like looking around at each other like, what on earth is that?
And who's up there?
Because these footsteps were persistent. And so me and one other person went up there and we did a search of that second floor, and there was nobody up there. Nobody. So, and when we came back down, the people that said that we were, the sound of our footsteps walking around up there was basically what we had heard when there was nobody up there before. So, yeah,
He finally had an experience.
Yeah, that was kind of wild. That was cool.
So.
Anyways.
All right, so back to our last story of the evening. We're going to jump out to California, Sacramento.
There's
Public
actually
Library.
2 Sacramento stories.
Okay, cool. So first of 2. I did not edit the script. Obviously, he did.
I do the editing.
All right. So, starting in 1857, some of Sacramento's leading citizens, including E.B. Crocker, Leland Stanford, and C.P. Huntington, formed the Sacramento Library Association to provide for the present generation and transmit to posterity ample and interesting means of information and improvement. That it should flourish in years to come and rise to the eminence among kindred institutions. That's a very, very lengthy way of saying we're going to help you learn. Anyway, the association transferred its building and collection over to the city of Sacramento in 1879, and city residents voted to turn the subscription association into a free library. The Sacramento Public Free Library opened on June 14th of 1879 with a collection of around 6,000 volumes to serve a city of 21,000 people. The city and the library flourished, and in 1908, the city library system became the first in California to open service to the entire country. Small deposit stations, branches, and bookmobiles expanded service to as far reaches of the country over the following decades. Today, Sacramento Public Library is still serving the residents of the greater Sacramento area. Although the time and trends have changed the delivery of library services over the last century and a half, the library has never changed its commitment to providing those services. The library remains the heart of the community, meeting the needs of its population and responding to its ever-changing interests and needs. Over the years, this institution has reported to host paranormal activity, but the exact identities of the spirits involved remains a mystery. Of course, this assumes that the library can be attributed to, the activity can be attributed to the individual spirits rather than some other phenomenon of paranormal or natural sort. The hub of the intellect and emotion, libraries are primed with an energy that can defy explanation. Over the years, the archival staff at the Sacramento Public Library have been subjected to a variety of phenomena, particularly at night. An inexplicable banging and clanging coming from the room's climate-controlled vault, books, many several hundred years old, randomly falling off of shelves, and the glass doors enclosing several of the room's stacks have been found open in the morning and after being closed and sealed the evening before. While the activity isn't overtly terrifying, it can be enough to give a librarian pause and to get them whispering amongst themselves in the quiet hours.
Keep going.
Okay. A short half-mile walk to the south, we can get to the California State Library, where activity has been so common that it inspired a couple of librarians to establish the Ghost File. It's an online exhibit about the historical legends connected to the building, architects, artists, and librarians who have shaped the State Library and who could be revisiting its cavernous halls from the afterlife. So who could have been haunting the California State Library? Combing its interviews with library staffers who have had those paranormal encounters and research conducted into the library's California History Room, their main theory points to one man in particular, Elijah Carson Hart. Cart was a judge, He was a judge in the Third Court of Appeal, whose chambers were in the 5th floor of the library, right around the building opened in 1928. Rumors indicated that he may have passed away in the building, but it turns out he actually passed away at Sutter Hospital after being found unresponsive in his office. Another theory about the cause of the friendly disturbances at the library is that the spirits are connected to the books themselves. There are historic tomes in the library dating back as far as 1677, some of them providing detailed accounts regarding witchcraft and the occult. And there are other titles about magic and mystical traditions, such as
Rosicrucianism.
Bless you.
Rosicrucianism?
Yeah. It's a spiritual and cultural movement that rose to some level of prominence in the 17th century. And theospody, belief that direct knowledge about God can be attained by transcending this reality to a deeper spiritual plane.
And that is theosophy.
Yes.
That was not a mispronunciation of philosophy or theology. It's theosophy. That's.
Bless me again.
It's a weird one. Yeah.
Anyway, it's a fair bit more complex than that, but it's kind of the 50,000
foot view. Yeah, we're not going to do a whole show on this, but we could do a whole show on this if we were so inclined.
That one's all you.
We're not doing that.
The State Library also has a first edition book by Arthur Edgar Waite, who is famous for developing the popular tarot card deck. There's been an increase of reports. Thank you, Alex. Let me just say Gesundheit again. Anyway, there's been an increase in reports from staff about strange occurrences at the library since they brought in a rare old book collection containing books from the 1850s and 1970s back into the institution. That said, the librarians want their patrons to know that the activity has never been hostile. Just don't be surprised if you get an unexpected chill down your spine, or if you feel the gaze of unseen eyes on you while browsing the stacks. And if you hear something, remember to duck.
Yeah, and y'all are welcome for me making sure to cram in those those $10 words there at the very end of the script.
Once we've been drinking.
Once we've been drinking and already talking for an hour. So, yeah.
I feel like I should dump this on him.
You're not going to waste good booze.
Not yet.
Not yet. Robert the Duck. Rosicrucianism. It is, yeah, it's a weird one. I've actually, I've heard of the Rosicrucians before.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
But it's basically, well, that's what the religion is. The Rosicrucians followed Rosicrucianism.
Bless me, I am drinking.
Oh, this has been a fun one.
So, Haunted Victoria next time.
In 2 weeks.
Yep.
So,
And the reason why we're doing Victoria, British Columbia, is because I didn't want to ruin our ghost tour that we're taking in Vancouver by pre-researching.
yes.
So we'll do Vancouver later.
Another time. But
I have stuff for it. I just didn't want to read it yet.
now, with that said, if y'all...
Patrick found the definition.
Yes, yeah, found the definition of Rosicrucianism. And now, if you want to do a little bit of research, like we'll of course dive into some of the history of Victoria, British Columbia. But if you're going to watch in a couple weeks and you want to do a little homework in advance or something like that, Victoria, British Columbia, it's a beautiful city. First of all,
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning visual city. Very beautiful there at the southern tip of Vancouver Island. But also, just the history. It's seen so many different chapters, going all the way back to the First Nations, which is of course the native tribes up in Canada. They refer to all their native tribes as the First Nations up there. That's the Canadian thing.
Yeah.
But then of course you start having some of the settlers come in. You got the Hudson's Bay Company winds up having a presence there. You have the gold rush comes through, and all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, so it was a fascinating place to actually research, and we actually had more stories than we had time for the script. So there might be a part 2 as well.
Might be a part 2, or they might wind up going and getting dispersed into maybe another Haunted Canada,
Or just British Columbia, because again we're gonna have a Haunted Vancouver at one point in time, and there's another section up there that I have stories for as well. So yeah.
Yeah, or some of those stories could find their way also into, because I think like there was a couple hotels on there, restaurants. They might find their way into a haunted hotel, haunted restaurant script or something like
And
that.
we've actually already talked about the Fairmount Hotel.
There's 2 places up there that we have talked about. They were in the Haunted Canada that we did last August, and so we will not be revisiting those. But
it's where the haunted chocolate place is.
yes, but Rogers Chocolate.
Yep.
So really, really cool town. The gentleman up there, I think, if I remember correctly, his name is John Adams.
No relation.
No, really. But he has been running ghost tours up there in Victoria for a good long time now.
Yeah.
So
Definitely, I would like to get down there at some point to see his ghost tour, but we won't be able to do it on this trip.
yeah. So,
But we are lucky. We are going to go on through Haunted Vancouver ghost tours. So yeah.
Yep, we'll get to do that. We're gonna do supposed to be doing a ghost tour up in Skagway, Alaska. So
Which I'm looking forward to as well. So, yay!
all kinds of fun stuff coming up.
Excuse me. Pardon.
But yeah, so 2 weeks, Victoria, British Columbia, and in 3 weeks, just
Haunted Alaska.
Haunted Alaska. So just 1 week break between the two, because then we are going to be off for 3 weeks.
Yep.
So, and again, don't forget to come and join us for all the other good stuff that we have going on. Of course, tours that we're going to be going almost every night through the summer. There'll be probably a couple nights off here or there, but we're going to be doing a lot of tours this summer, so you can come on out and join us. There's the special tours, such as the John Marshall House, which is the first one of those, is going to be on the Friday the 24th of this month.
And we're doing this month, July and August.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably be back again in the winter, but we haven't set those dates up yet with the John Marshall House.
Yes, but those tickets are very limited, because it goes inside the John Marshall House, and you can only fit just so many people in a group. So if you want to join one of those tours, we recommend you sign up for those soon. And then, of course, as we already mentioned, Scares the Cares right around the corner, but only about a month and a half away, and
58 days,
something like that. And it won't be long. We'll be doing down in Key West this December, which I hate to say it's going to be here before we know it.
Yeah, so definitely if you haven't signed up and you want to sign up, you got to do that ASAP. Because again, we want to make sure you get into the hotel we're at.
Yep, and amongst other things, you can catch us. We're going to be doing like monthly markets and stuff like that. We'll be putting all this stuff up online as the days go on. But yeah, lots of awesome stuff going on. Lots of opportunities to come on out and see us, and we hope to all see you all in person soon. But if we can't see you in the next 2 weeks, we hope to see you back here again on Monday night on the 20th.
Yep.
I think. Yeah, 20th.
So, we will see you all then. Have a good night. Happy hauntings, and
I do.
adieu.
Good night, y'all.
Night.